A ship drifts silently in the vast Atlantic. Its sails set for a journey its crew will never finish. In 1872, the merchant brig Mary Celeste was found in perfect condition, yet every soul on board had vanished. Not a single person remained to explain what happened. This is the story of history's most famous ghost ship, a mystery that has baffled experts for over a century. By the end of this, you will understand the chilling evidence and the most compelling explanation for this enduring enigma. We will explore the captain's final log entry and the single, terrifying clue left on deck. What do you believe drives our lasting fascination with stories of the unexplained? On a calm December morning, the crew of the British brig Dei Gratia spotted a familiar shape on the horizon. It was the Mary Celeste, but something was immediately wrong. Her sails were set, yet they were torn and flying at odd angles, giving her a drunken, lurching motion as she drifted. Captain David Morehouse, who knew the Mary Celeste's captain personally, grew uneasy as his own ship drew closer. His men called out, hailing the vessel again and again. Only silence answered. A deep and unnatural quiet hung over the ship, broken only by the creak of her timbers and the slap of waves against her hull. Morehouse had no choice but to send a boarding party across the quiet stretch of sea. What they found was a scene of profound and orderly abandonment. The ship was in seaworthy condition, her hull sound and her cargo of industrial alcohol still securely stored below. A 6-month supply of food and water stood in the storerooms. In the galley, the crew's breakfast dishes were set out, as if someone was about to wash them. The crew's personal belongings, their clothes and trinkets, and even their pipes, remained untouched in their quarters. It was a perfectly preserved home, but one without a single occupant. The lifeboat, however, was gone. The ship's precious navigational sextant and all of its official papers were missing. The clock on board was stopped, and the captain's log held its final entry from 10 days prior, a note of routine from a point hundreds of miles away. Then the boarding party saw it, the one clue that spoke of violence or frantic haste. A long, fresh cut marred the main rail, a deep gash that looked as if it had been made by the blade of an axe. Everything was ready for life to continue, but the people were gone, leaving behind only this single, terrifying mark and a mystery that would echo through the ages. So who were the people who vanished from that perfectly sound ship? At the helm was Captain Benjamin Spooner Briggs, a mariner known for his deep religious faith and calm, methodical nature. He was not a man given to panic. With him were his wife, Sarah, and their 2-year-old daughter, Sophia, a family presence that makes the mystery feel all the more personal and chilling. The 7 crew members were seasoned sailors, hired specifically for their competence. A captain of Briggs's character, traveling with his own family, makes the idea of a violent mutiny seem almost unthinkable. The harmony on board was as solid as the ship itself. This leaves us with the cargo, a seemingly mundane detail that may hold the key. The Mary Celeste was carrying 1,701 barrels of industrial alcohol. This was not drinking alcohol, but a raw, potent spirit used in manufacturing. Now, picture one of those barrels springing a leak. The fumes would have begun to seep through the hold, invisible and highly flammable. A single spark from the galley stove, a struck match, anything could have turned the ship into a fiery inferno. It is easy to imagine the crew smelling those fumes, their minds racing with the terrifying prospect of an imminent explosion. In a moment of collective, reasoned panic, Captain Briggs might have made the only safe decision. He would have ordered everyone into the lifeboat, fully intending to stay tethered to the Mary Celeste at a safe distance until the fumes dissipated and the danger passed. This theory paints a haunting picture of a cautious, orderly evacuation. But here is the flaw that keeps the mystery alive. When the boarding party investigated, they found nearly all of the alcohol barrels were perfectly sealed. Only a handful were empty, and those had been made from red oak, a porous wood that often allows slow evaporation. There was no evidence of a massive leak, no violent explosion, and certainly no fire. The ship was pristine. If fear of fumes drove them off, why did that fear never materialize into any actual damage? They abandoned a perfectly good ship for a threat that in the end never came. That single, terrifying gash on the rail became a canvas for the world's darkest fears. In an age without instant communication, the Mary Celeste story spread like a phantom wave, mutating with each retelling. Newspapers, hungry for a sensational story, printed wild speculation that quickly hardened into accepted fact for many. The public was captivated by the idea of a malevolent sea monster, a colossal squid or kraken, reaching its monstrous tentacles from the deep to pluck the crew, one by one, from the deck. Others whispered of paranormal forces, of a malevolent entity from a phantom dimension, or even visitors from other worlds spiriting the entire company away. The ship's own history was dredged up and twisted into a narrative of a curse. Before Captain Briggs owned her, the vessel had endured a string of misfortunes and changes in command, which was not entirely unusual for the time, but now seemed like a dark omen. The most chilling of the natural explanations was the waterspout. Imagine a tornado over the ocean, a swirling column of water and wind powerful enough to lift a ship from the sea. A direct hit could have sent a devastating wave over the decks, washing everyone and the lifeboat away in an instant. The ship, being heavier and more buoyant, could have righted itself, leaving behind that mysterious axe cut as a scar from the struggle. This theory is terrifying because it is entirely possible, a sudden and absolute act of nature that leaves no real evidence behind. Yet, even this does not fully explain the orderly state of the cabins or the missing navigational instruments. The enduring power of the sea monster and the ghost ship lies in this vacuum of certainty. When logic provides no satisfying answer, our imagination rushes in to fill the void with stories that speak to our most primal fears of the deep and the unknown. The most plausible answer to this old mystery lies not in one single horror, but in a cascade of ordinary misfortunes. Modern analysis suggests a perfect storm of bad luck and human misjudgment. Let us return to those barrels of industrial alcohol. Even if most were sealed, the few made of porous red oak could have leaked enough fumes to create a volatile atmosphere in the hold. Now imagine a minor vapor explosion occurs. It would not be a fiery cataclysm, but a sudden, loud burst of pressure. This blast could have been powerful enough to blow off a main hatch, creating that deep, fresh axe mark on the rail as the heavy hatch cover was violently flung aside. The crew, smelling the potent fumes and hearing this terrifying noise, would have been convinced a massive, ship-destroying explosion was only moments away. At that precise instant of maximum fear, the sea itself may have turned against them. A sudden waterspout or a rogue wave from a distant undersea earthquake could have struck the ship. The vessel would have lurched violently, straining and perhaps snapping the very rope that tethered the overloaded lifeboat to the Mary Celeste. Picture the scene from that small boat. The crew, believing they had escaped a floating bomb, watches in horror as their ship, with its sails still set to catch the wind, drifts away. A brig undersail is far faster than a heavily laden lifeboat being rowed by desperate hands. They would have shouted themselves hoarse, straining against the oars, but the gap would have only widened. The Mary Celeste, the ghost ship that sailed herself, simply outpaced her people, leaving them to the mercy of the open Atlantic. This theory of interconnected tragedies fits all the evidence. It explains the orderly state of the ship, the single sign of violence, the missing lifeboat, and the lack of any fire or major leak. It was not a monster or a curse. but a cruel alignment of circumstance that led a good captain to make a fatal, yet understandable, decision. The Mary Celeste remains an eternal question, a puzzle whose pieces fit just enough to suggest a shape, but never enough to reveal the full picture. We have the eerie discovery of a ship in perfect working order, yet utterly devoid of life. We have the credible captain, a man of faith and reason, traveling with his own family, which makes any tale of madness or mutiny feel hollow. We have the volatile cargo, those barrels of industrial alcohol, whose invisible, flammable breath could have sparked a panic as real as any monster. And finally, we have the logical, tragic theory of a cascade of ordinary misfortunes, a panicked but orderly abandonment that turned fatal when the lifeboat was lost to the sea. This explanation fits the evidence best, transforming a ghost story into a human tragedy. Yet, the question persists: why does this single ship, out of so many lost, continue to haunt us more than 150 years later? It is the human drama at its core. We can all understand that moment of decision, the choice between a known danger and a terrifying unknown. It is the chilling power of the what if, the thought of watching your only home sail away without you, becoming a ghost on the horizon. And it is the humbling reminder of the ocean's vast, impersonal power, a force that can erase 10 lives without leaving a single clear answer. This story belongs to you now. What do you believe happened on that quiet ship? Was it the fumes, a water spout, or something else entirely? Share your own theory in the comments below. And if you are drawn to the shadows of history, subscribe for more journeys into the world's greatest mysteries. As you go, hold in your mind the final, haunting image of the Mary Celeste, a silent monument to 10 souls, forever lost between the sea and the sky.